The Speaking Statements, the podcast of statements about the 50 U.S. states. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for alerts for when a new episode is released.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to season 2, episode 4 of the Speaking Statements. We have a guest here from Mississippi. Here, I want to announce Hugh Warren on our Mississippi episode. Hi, Hugh.
Hey, Julian, thanks so much for having me on today.
So you live in Mississippi right now?
We sure do. I live here with my wife and our year-and-a-half-old son, and we have been living here for a little over a year. Before that, we lived in Chicago, but before that, I was actually born in Mississippi, and I lived here my whole life.
Well, I've got a couple questions. My first question is, can you tell me about the climate in Mississippi?
Well, I can tell you right now it is very hot and humid, and for most of the year, from around May to September, it's very hot. We have a very southern climate. We get a lot of humidity from the Gulf of Mexico, and we have fairly mild falls and winters. Every now and again, we'll get snow and ice in the winters. I can remember as a child, we were very happy when we had the rare snow day. It didn't take much for school to be canceled. Unlike Chicago, if we got about an inch or two of snow or ice, then that was enough to cancel school for the day.
My second question is, do you have any trick of how to spell Mississippi?
You know, the best way that I remember is treating the S's as crooked letters. Okay, so the saying goes M-I, crooked letter I, crooked letter I, P-P-I. It's a mouthful, but it's stuck with me all these years, and even I mess up spelling Mississippi sometimes, unfortunately.
I do Mississippi.
That seems like a better way to do it than my way.
Okay, well, I still like your way. My third question is, what do you know about the history of Mississippi?
Oh, well, Mississippi has a varied and quite interesting history. It really goes back thousands of years ago when Native Americans arrived to the state, and they hunted deer and fished out of our many lakes and rivers. And that ended up becoming the mound builder community and society. And these Native Americans were known for building big mounds that were very noticeable in the otherwise flat terrain and geography. And that gave way to what archaeologists consider the Mississippian culture. And so we have lots of Native American artifacts, including arrowheads and spear points and pottery, and we can learn a lot about the societies that lived and flourished here for thousands of years. After that, the Spanish and the French arrived and began to explore all the lakes and rivers and woodlands. And then in about 1817, Mississippi became the 20th state in the United States. And it primarily consisted of agriculture and trade. About at the end of the 1800s, a lot of musicians started playing what's known as the blues genre in Mississippi, and so you'll actually hear that Mississippi is the birthplace of the blues and modern rock and roll. So around the turn of the century, in the early 1900s, you had artists like Robert Johnson, Freddie Spruill, Tommy Johnson. They started recording what's known as the Delta Blues in the early 1900s, and it took this country by storm. A lot of artists started to record in the Delta Blues style, and that gave way to what we know as modern rock and roll. You had artists like B.B. King as well, who became internationally famous for playing their blues genre of music. Around the same time as B.B. King, catfish farming became a big part of Mississippi's economy. And even to this day, Mississippi is responsible for about a third of the world's catfish production. A lot of cool things to talk about when you're talking about Mississippi history. Mississippi was also They played a pivotal role in the civil rights movement in the 1960s. And today we are still primarily agricultural. We do a lot of farming and raising livestock and chickens and fish, particularly catfish.
Wow, you have like so many things to say about the history. My fourth question is, what food do you like to eat in Mississippi?
Now, that's the hardest question you've asked me today, because I like to eat a lot of different kinds of food. And fortunately, people in Mississippi cook a lot of good food. We have very fertile soil, which makes for good fruits and vegetables. So I'm actually looking out my window right now, and I have some watermelon growing out of the ground. And I do love a good watermelon on a hot summer day. I also love to eat Mississippi seafood, which includes shrimp, red snapper, and black drum and flounder down on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And we have a lot of good pasture land and good livestock here. So I do love eating a good steak every now and again too.
Wow. Now, I know if you plant a seed from a watermelon, it'll eventually grow. My fifth question and last question is, why should someone visit Mississippi?
Julian, there are a lot of good reasons we would love for people to visit Mississippi. We have a lot of really cool museums, including the Natural Science Museum in Jackson and the Civil Rights Museum in Jackson. There's a lot of good music that plays around, that people play here in Mississippi. You have people who come and do concerts, and you've got great restaurants. And one of my favorite things is that there are a lot of woods and forests in Mississippi. So if you like to hike, if you like to be out in nature, there's lots of different places that you can go around the state to do that. Not to mention, if you like to swim or get in the ocean, we have a great Gulf Coast. We have a lot of lakes and really cool rivers that you can canoe and kayak down. So those are just a few of the reasons why people should visit Mississippi. And not to mention also, the traffic is not bad at all. When compared to Chicago, it's pretty easy to get around the state.
Good answer. Thanks for being on my episode today. We're glad to have you here.
Julian, I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right, goodbye.
Now we'll do my notes about Mississippi. Mississippi is in the south. It borders 4 states: Tennessee, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Alabama. It also borders the Gulf of Mexico. The Mississippi River forms Mississippi's western border. Jackson, the capital, is Mississippi's largest city. Mississippi was the 20th state. Indigenous people have lived in Mississippi as early as the 1500s. The second large rocket test center and Space Center in Mississippi. Now we'll do the fast facts with Leo. Start us off, Leo. What is the state tree? The state tree is the magnolia. Flower is also the magnolia, because magnolia flowers grow on the magnolia tree. What is the state bird? The state bird is a mockingbird. What is this water bird? The state water bird is a wood duck. What is the state dance? It's a square dance. What is the state fish? The state fish is a largemouth bass. What is the state insect? The state insect is a honeybee. What is the state watermelon? It will be the bottlenose dolphin. What is the state beverage? The state beverage is milk. Thanks for doing the fast facts. Thank you, Julian. I love to be on your podcast. Bye. Bye. See you on the next episode. Last but not least, the Mississippi Quarter will be a picture of the magnolia flower and words that say the Magnolia State. That's all for today, but check in next week. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Speaking Statements.